Hey, hi everyone. So this video is going to review the syllabus for Sociology 309, and I'm going to do it for both of my online courses. All right, so the syllabus is completely the same. Okay, and I do apologize for being late with this. I'm just trying to get my routine started, as I'm assuming that you are as well as the semester progresses. Okay, all right. So this course syllabus review is going to, of course, look at Sociology 309. For this particular one, is Section 42, Writing Skills in Sociology. So this is, of course, the spring 2025 in Section 26 451, and I can't recall at the other section at the moment. Okay, but the syllabus is already posted onto Canvas. So the class is going to be asynchronous. What I'm going to do is that more likely than not, I'm going to post up the Canvas modules on Tuesdays. All right, but like I said, just this week, I'm just trying to get everything in order where I'm going to be consistently posting the modules on Tuesday. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll finish posting or finish writing out and posting the module tomorrow. Okay, all right. So of course, my name is Anke Valdivia. Call me Professor Valdivia. And this is my email. My office hours, and I just got my office space on Wednesday, and my office is going to be in SBS B325. And that's the office right next to the hallway as you go up the stairs and you make a right and you pass the first hallway, and it's going to be the first door on your left. If you take the elevator, you're going to take the elevator to the third floor, right? Because there is like a lower level from the second floor where the corner store is located. You're going to go up the elevator to the third floor, and you're going to make a left, and you're going to pass that same hallway, and my office is going to be to the left. So I'm going to have my office hours on Wednesdays from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. or by appointment. But because I'm assuming since you're taking an online course, many of you also work during the day. So what I'm going to do is that this weekend I'm going to post up onto the Canvas shell um, a Zoom link for my office hours. So you can just stop by during my office hours, and we could have a digital office hours or virtual office hours meeting. Okay, but if you want to have something a little more personable and just focused on very specific things that you want to talk about or any concerns that you may have, we could set up an appointment. Right, so I do make myself readily available to students if they need me. Okay, all right. Oh, and before I forget, when you send me an email, give me at least 24 to 48 hours to respond. And if I don't respond within those 48 hours or so, just send me another email reminding me or just pointing me in the direction of the initial email that you sent. And then that'll be my cue to go back and look for your email, look at it, read it, and then give you a response. Okay. But I do try to make a concerted effort to read emails as soon as I see them. Okay. But sometimes I do, as most of us go through our daily routines, get caught up in other, or our attention is usually drawn to something else. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to go over the overview of the course. So this course will examine the different aspects of sociological writing, and this course will explore strategies of writing effectively. In In what ways can writing reflect how a person may think about a particular issue or topic? Is writing clearly an indication of clear thinking, or is it clear thinking needed to write effectively? All writing is not the same. Someone may write a text to a family member or an email a coworker, which differs from when you receive an email from human resources sharing like changes to a company's promotion policies or writing an essay due for class the following day. The point is, people write on a regular basis. This course will focus on academic writing as it pertains to sociology. Sociology has a particular way of sharing ideas, using theory, and constructing arguments via writing. As such, you must be as clear in your writing as humanly possible. Okay. So this course, the way that I said it, set up, and this is actually my second semester teaching this particular course, because I usually teach like globalization, social psychology, urban sociology, sometimes juvenile delinquency, and Chicano Latino sociology. But for this semester, I'm teaching this course. Okay. So then the way that I set the course up is to really focus on the idea how you as an individual, but more specifically, you as a student, and how you relate to the idea of writing as well to the practice of writing. And this is something that I actually noticed in my own writing when I was an undergrad at UC Santa Barbara many, many, many years ago. Is that I wasn't necessarily a confident writer. So then what I would do, I would just write to try to get not necessarily a point across, but more of making sure that I get to the 5, 10, or 15 pages, or how many pages the professor would assign with specific written assignments. Right. So I wasn't really focusing on the development of ideas, how the ideas relate and interconnect, and substantially supporting your claims and so on and so forth. Right. So then over the course of years, students, and I did this myself as an undergrad, began to develop really poor writing habits. And those poor writing habits didn't really change for me until I actually started focusing and paying attention to my writing as a graduate student when I entered when I got my master's at CSUN, and then later on when I went into the doctoral program at UC Santa Barbara. Okay. So by paying attention how you understand writing, really will make a difference, because one of the things that we will talk about, or go over in the course, is that when we communicate, when we speak, it is not the same as the way we write. Because when we speak, we just speak in a normal flow, and we speak using words that may be extra words that we don't necessarily need, right? And we don't always catch it as we speak to another person. But on the other hand, when you write, okay, it's really easy to not pay attention to how you construct sentences, and then you include or incorporate words that are not needed. You're right. And these are extra words, because in a couple of weeks, gonna go over this idea of the economy of writing, like the economy of writing and the efficiency of words. Okay. So then you could actually say more by writing less, but there's a very particular way in how you go about doing something like that. And we're going to be looking at certain type of strategies, okay, on writing. So like that's like the overall goal. Okay. So that's sort of referring to the goal. All right. So let me go over the goals now. So goals. Students will understand the role of sociological research and explore the writing processes researchers go through as they write their manuscripts. All right. So point number one, students will develop an understanding of writing styles for both non-academic and academic audiences. And that's sort of what I mentioned in the descriptive paragraph. And what I also mentioned before, that not all writing is the same. So you're not going to write a text to a friend the same way that you may write a text to one of your parents or a grandparent. Right. So you always have to understand who your audience is when you're writing. Okay. And that's all, it's the same thing in academics. Like when a professor is writing an article or a book, is that particular individual writing that text for other academics, or are they writing that text for more of a general consumption by the general audience or non-academic individuals? Right. So it's always important to be able to identify the group, the target group that you're writing for and writing to. Okay. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Okay, now for point number two, students will develop an understanding of the research cycle and the research process, which includes developing a research project from crafting research questions, research proposal, thesis, claims, warrants, and literature. Again, so even though that this is a writing class, I'm also going to show you how to write a research proposal, or just do more sociologically based research. Sorry, writing, right? And because it's a sociology class and sociology is a science, I'm going to show you also how to construct a research proposal that eventually will help you write like a research paper that's due at the end of the semester. Right. So, for example, this semester I'm teaching sociology 311, which is the shorthand is globalization, and I'm having them write a 10 to 15 page final paper. Right. So I'm going to show them some of the things that I'm going to show you in this course as well. Okay. All right. But that's like the structure. That is the context of how we're going to explore and learn about writing in sociology. Okay. Now, and then the final point is that students will demonstrate their skill by submitting research proposals. So, by going through the different modules or the weekly modules, and the weekly readings and the exercises are all are all meant to help you pay attention and learn better writing habits. Right, that's like really key. Like, for example, one of the writing habits that I adopted when I was an undergrad, first in junior college and then to a 4 year institution and then eventually grad school, is that the professors then would say that I would need to have a writing manual, a dictionary, and a thesaurus. All right, and those are the tools that writers use as they go about writing, right? Because you want to be able to learn how to put words together that create meaning. Because words by themselves mean nothing, right? Words acquire meaning as they're being put together in what we call a sentence or syntactical structure. But then there's always a context of how we communicate with each other, either verbally or written. Okay. So then that's what the research proposal is for. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. But if it does not make sense, or if you want a little more point of clarification, you could either send me an email or wait until this coming Wednesday when I have my virtual office hours. Okay. But in either case, let me know if you have any questions or points of clarification. Okay, so the next thing what I'm going to do is go just the requirements. So the requirements are is attendance and mandatory. Now, this is how I'm going to take attendance for these two courses. Every time you log onto Canvas, that is how I am going to. Sorry about that. How I'm going to take a roll. All right, but in order to gain full credit, um, at the very minimum, you're gonna have to stay in on the Canvas shell for this class at least 30 minutes. Okay, and then once you do the 30 minutes or so for that week, I'll count that as being present in class, right? Because Canvas does keep track of all your logins for every course that you take, all right? And I'm able to see I could generate a report of how many times and how long you've been on Canvas, at least for our particular class, 309. All right, and this is sort of what I share with students in globalization is that welcome to the surveillance society, right? Where everything you do in a digitized life is recorded by something and someone. All right, and this is just another example of how technology has infiltrated into our personal lives. Right. But nonetheless, that's how I'm going to take. attendance by you just in logging on to the Canvas Shell for Art course. Okay, now one of the things that you're going to do is that oh, sorry. So one of the things that I set out for the class is that I am not really going to edit your papers for other classes, right? Because I'm not an editor, right? I've seen and I've spoken like with colleagues where they've taught this course and they sort of function as the editor for the student, which is fine, but I don't think um it provides a fuller experience in terms of how to engage and learn better habits in terms of writing, right? So then what you're going to do, and I'm going to provide more specific details that you're going to, so everyone in the class who's enrolled in the class is going to submit directly to me a paper that you wrote for another course. It doesn't have to be sociology, but if it is, it would be much better, or much the better. Okay. And the paper at the very minimum is going to be 5 pages long, all right, or longer, or like 5 to 10 pages long. Okay, and you're going to submit those papers to me, and then I'm going to cover up any identifying marks like your name, perm number, and all that, and I'm going to delete it. And then I'm just going to put a number on it and then randomly assign those essays to those enrolled in the class. And then I'm going to provide you time to read it, to contemplate about it, to assess it, and then to edit it. And then you're going to write a response. You're going to write a paper based on what you did to that paper in terms of editing and assessment. Okay. Because once you do that, the second part of the exercise, sorry about that. The second part of the exercise is that you're going to write a reflection essay on the peer editing that you did and explain and describe and analyze what you learned about going through that particular essay and what insights you gained by editing that paper in terms of writing. Right. Again, for the most part, everyone in the class shouldn't really know who wrote what paper and who received which paper. Now, if you start speaking with amongst yourselves about the paper, then you could pretty much figure out who has whose paper, right? And you could do that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I just want to make sure because sometimes people are very bashful and shy about having it's one thing to have your essay read by a professor. It's another thing having your essay read by a peer and then getting critiques or at least assess some type of assessment. But I didn't really share any assessments or writings of students doing this exercise for me last semester, and I think just going to continue that tradition that I started. But the point is that I want you to get an experience of to understand how editing works and how you're able to convey your ideas efficiently. Okay. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, if it doesn't, just let me know. All right. And then number four, one of the requirements is that I'm going to post the weekly Canvas modules. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to make a much more concerted effort by being consistent by posting the modules on Tuesdays. And then you're going to have a week to being able to complete the modules. Okay. But just like what I had you do with the first modules is that when you're taking a course, either virtually or in person, is you have to sort of understand what is the time management issue for a class. Now, I'm not sure if any prior professor has ever told you this, but this is how it works. For every 1 hour contact you are in class, right? Like, let's say, for example, like a 3 unit class, in order to get like a B or an A, you would have to spend about 6 hours a day. I mean, sorry, 6 hours a week. No, 6 hours a week preparing, reading, and writing. right? And the way that that's determined is by the number of units the course is. So for every 1 hour, 1 unit hour you are in class, you should be studying at the very minimum 2 hours outside of that 3 hour unit course. So if you have a 3 hour unit course, it should be about 6 hours a week. If you have a 5 unit course, it should be about 10 hours a week. And that's just to try to get a B or an A. If you really want to strive to get an A, at the very max, it should be at least like 3 to 4 hours for every contact hour you're in class. And that's what I did when I was a student. All right. I read a lot as an undergrad. I read a lot. I wrote a lot. And um and one of the reasons is because being at UC Santa Barbara, I was usually one of a few or a handful of Chicano students that were in predominantly all white classes. So then, because me and people that other Chicanos and other minorities that I met in those classes, we understood that we were under the microscope because we would our presence at that campus at UC Santa Barbara would be questioned just because of our backgrounds, right? Because like myself, I identify as a Chicano working class professor because I've literally worked my entire life and I've worked for everything that I acquire. Nothing's been handed to me. Right. So like that's my working class identity. Right. So then I'm very sympathetic for working class students. Okay. Okay. But anyway, getting back to the modules. So the modules will be up on Tuesdays, and then you're going to have about a week, and I'll post the dates when everything is due. Okay. Now, if you miss a module, send me an email, and then we could discuss about how I'm going to go about do about having you do those missed modules. Okay. All right. Now, and then point number five is that you're going to write a 7 to 10 page research proposal, but I'm also going to provide you the structure. All right, as we get closer to the end of the semester. And it's something that I do for all my classes, but more specific, like when I teach globalization or urban sociology or social psychology, um, is that you do a research paper, but I break it up into segments, right? But for this class, because it's slightly different and it's focusing more on writing, I sort of focus more on the writing and making sure that you're able to convey and support your points and convey your ideas effectively in terms of written language. Okay. And then at the very end, you're going to do a final presentation of your research proposal. And what I had the students do last semester is that I would just have them do, a video recording. All right. And again, I will provide more details as we get closer to the end of the semester. And that's pretty much the requirements. And then I'm going to show you the breakdown of those requirements in a moment. But first, I'm going to just go to the right side of the syllabus. Okay, so then these are the texts that you're going to need that you're going to purchase for the course. Okay, so the first one is the Wayne C. Booth et al. And et al. Just means everyone else because there's actually, I think, like three or four more authors. So that's just a shorthand to say everyone else who was involved in writing the book with Wayne C. Booth because he is the lead scholar of this particular text. And then the other two texts that you're going to require for this course is written by Richard Paul and Linda Elder. And the first one is How to Write a Paragraph, The Art of Substantive Writing. And the second one is The Miniature Guide to Critical Thinking. So these two particular texts are going to aid us with the process of understanding writing and how writing relates to thinking and vice versa. All right, because one of the things that I'm going to mention throughout the semester, for the bad or the good of it all, and sometimes I do think it's unfortunate if you're not able to effectively convey your ideas through writing. It is a measure of the type of person and thinker you are, and I know it sounds horrible, All right. Like I mentioned, I understand it, but I don't like it. So you could literally have like the most brilliant idea, for example, to solve world hunger or promote world peace or whatever, like that you're able to solve some type of social problem. But if you can't effectively convey it in writing, it's not going to go anywhere. Right. So if it doesn't go anywhere, then the general consensus or the unspoken consensus is that you're not a clear thinker and that you're not a serious person. And this is going to come important for you because one of the expectations that I have for every student that takes a course with me is that I expect you to go to graduate school. And one of the things that you're going to need to when you apply for graduate school is you're going to need a letter of recommendation from a professor. And I'm going to tell you now is like I've told students who have come to me and asked me for a letter of recommendation, and I have to talk about the writing. If because if the writing is not clear enough, that particular student is going to struggle in that class, or sorry, in that program. And yeah, so it's very important to be able to take writing seriously and not just look at it as busy work because a lot of future choices are contingent upon the ability to effectively write. Okay, and these texts are good enough to really help students figure out certain bad writing habits that you might develop over the years. Okay, again, hopefully that makes sense. But then, and just send me an email if you need any further clarification. And then the next thing is that so those are the required texts, and then everything else, like other readings or supplemental readings, I'm going to provide all that, and I'm going to post it onto. Well, sorry, I'm going to begin to post up those readings for you this weekend. Okay, and then from there, okay, so that's the course materials. Oh, and sorry, before I forget, I'm also going to provide images of what the texts look like. All right, and you'll be able to find them at the bookstore on campus. All right. So again, this is the peer editing, which I mentioned earlier. So this is what I wrote. The class will edit a peer's essay written for another class. The student's identity and paper will remain anonymous, and the professor will rename each essay. And then you're going to go through that process, and I'm going to provide handouts for you on how you're going to go about doing that editing. And then the next one is the peer editing review, which is number 3, where I will provide you with another handout and you're going to write another essay just explaining what you learned and what you experienced and what your overall assessment is of that particular essay that I assigned to you. Okay. And then, of course, you have the weekly modules are designed to aid you in developing skills, learning to apply concepts, and improving writing and research skills. Oh, I thought I got this typo. I'll fix this. All right. And repost this tomorrow or this weekend. And that you're going to be write a 7 to 10 page paper. All right. Because that was like last semester. And the 7 to 10 page paper is just going to be the research proposal. Okay, and then of course the final research presentation, and then the student learning outcome or the SLO is that you're going to minimize writing errors and to increase the effectiveness of written communication. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop and then I'm going to come back and then start on the grading policy.